Welcome to the Russian Grand Prix. I'm going to take you through the results. Your host, Cranky Yankee F1. So make sure to check out the channel and subscribe. I'll go ahead and just get it out of the way in the beginning. I will be giving you the up-to-date live results from the Russian Grand Prix all weekend. It is, 5 a.m. here. Started at 3:50, but nonetheless, I'll be here. So the Russian Grand Prix started with business as usual. I'm going to go ahead and add some new graphics this week. You'll probably see them below on a scrolling ticker. But let's jump straight in. I'll pull the actual blog up. I've posted already on screen, so you can see the live results table itself. I'll put the link below too if you just want to hop over to it. But Leclerc continues his dominance, and I want to go ahead and before we even say that, I want to preface this with Mercedes were on the mediums, so keep that in mind. And Mercedes brought significantly less of the softs this weekend, which is going to play out to be an interesting strategy in my opinion. But Leclerc P1 at 134.462. Verstappen put that P2 in with 17 minutes left, which is, if you've been watching F1 for a while, you know that's a pretty rare thing to do for I guess someone outside of Ferrari or Mercedes to put something in so late in an early session like that. But mind you, granted, Verstappen's got a grid penalty, so keep that in mind. But Vettel was half second behind. So half second behind Leclerc. I mean, there's a lot of things we don't technically know, like fuel loads and arrows and setups like that. But I tried to get as much as possible. But I'll include it. They didn't talk too much about the aero setups other than Honda, and especially, of course, with the Suzuka coming up, you see so much of FP1 about the next race. So Honda is testing a lot of these aero loads, and that's why they end up taking the grid penalty. So almost I guess all of the Hondas took the grid penalty ahead of Suzuka. So which makes sense. They like to do well in front of the Japanese Grand Prix. So, which makes a lot of sense. Again, like I said, Valtteri and Lewis were on the mediums. Interesting, though, I guess not interesting if you know anything about the Grand Prix, especially last year where Valtteri should have won, handed it over to Lewis to win, to just as a points play. Probably the first, hey, this is James meme we've seen. So, Valtteri came out ahead of Lewis there. Albon P6, Hulkenberg P7, Ricciardo P8, Sergio P9, and Roman P10. My call was both of the kind of the surprising thing was both of the Haas cars being into Q3 with Vettel taking pole with Leclerc, just over Leclerc. So we'll see how that plays out. But FP1 really only saw some action in Ricciardo, so he actually ended up with about 30 seconds left, slamming in his car into the back of the wall. You can see, I kind of got a graphic up here. It made it a little bit interesting other than just a screenshot. So he threw the water. It kind of splashed the water. So it was a pretty big impact. Surprisingly, no one really saw it coming. It was just as the final few seconds were coming out of that, were ticking off the clock. Kubica had a spin, Giovinazzi had a spin, and I guess most unfortunately for the home Grand Prix for Daniel Kvyat, it wasn't really clear what the problem was, but it looked like a fuel system. He was able to gear up, gear down, so it didn't really look like it was suspension or anything like that, or any sort of hard failure, other than it was likely going to be something with the fuel system. He'll probably be back for FP2, as will Ricciardo. But that was pretty much the highlights. There's really nothing to tell other than those things. I won't talk your ear off. You know the grid: P1 Leclerc, P2 Verstappen, P3 Vettel. Silver arrows are out of the picture. They're on the mediums. I even included the lap times over here, or the number of laps, so you can see everyone put in a decent number of laps. This is actually a pretty high number. So I'll go ahead and I'm fine-tuning the live timing, but it should be up, and I'll keep it all on this one blog. So I'm going to keep all the free practice sessions on this blog. Qualifying will get its own blog entry, and then obviously the race will get its own. So if you want to follow along, you can just use this link. Otherwise, that's the update, and I'll see you guys back here for FP2 here in a couple hours. Thanks, guys.